The Legend of Zelda. Ever since I started Honest Gaming History, this is a franchise I knew I'd have to cover. But I'm not gonna hold you, the thought always terrified me. Like, this timeline is infamous for not only being massive, but obnoxiously confusing. How does one take all that info and explain it so even someone who's never heard of Zelda can understand? Younger Donchi wasn't ready for all that, but now, yeah, your boy's ready. Today, we are breaking down the lore of one of the coolest things that come from Nintendo. A story that's lasted for over 3 decades, and is still going strong with new releases like Tears of the Kingdom. Folks, I am the Black Mastadonte, and this is the complete story of Legend of Zelda. Our tale of wisdom, power, and courage begins with the legendary Shigeru Miyamoto. It was the mid-80s, and our boy was at the drawing board planning his next banger. After the success of the Donkey Kong series and Mario Bros, both created by him by the way, Nintendo needed a new launch title for their new disc peripheral coming to the Famicom. Now the disc system did a lot for this console. It lowered the cost of game production, upgraded sound quality, but most importantly, it gave players the power to rewrite data. Miyamoto saw an opportunity in this, and decided to make it the focus of his new game. He wanted to make something that was vastly different from Mario Bros. That was more linear. You run, jump, and kill enemies to beat your high score. With this title, he wanted to get players to think. Mind you, Miyamoto and his team were working on this new, completely different game while also working on Super Mario Bros., the sequel to Mario Bros. Built different doesn't even describe this. Inspired by this and his childhood excursions to the natural areas around his hometown of Sonobe, Miyamoto made adventure the theme of his new title. His first idea was a 2-player game where each would create dungeons for the other to explore. Kind of like an old school Mario Maker if you think about it. However, once the prototype was designed, the overall response was that traversing through dungeons was the best part. So they scrapped the multiplayer dungeon creator idea for a single-player experience. They still needed a name though. Miyamoto knew he wanted to call it The Legend of something, but he wasn't sure what. Then the team's PR planner suggested they create a storybook for the title, one where a mighty hero saves a beautiful princess. He mentioned the wife of famous novelist F. Scott Fitzgerald, Zelda. Miyamoto wasn't really down for the storybook idea, but the name, there was just something about that name. When he heard it, it struck something within him, and thus, The Legend of Zelda was born, a tale about the eternal beauty Princess Zelda, being saved by her mighty hero Link. The name Link was chosen because the game was originally going to have time travel. Link acted as a link between the past and the future. Even though the time travel idea ended up getting scrapped, the name stuck. He also indirectly connected us, the players, since he was the vehicle we experienced the story through, thus acting as a link between all of us. Can I just say, that is so freaking wholesome. I love the fact that these guys were still trying to create that connection, even though this was supposed to be a single player experience. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, before doing research for this video, I didn't know a lot about what Shigeru Miyamoto contributed to Nintendo. Crazy, I know. But now, I have a ton of respect for this guy, regardless of him forgetting about his lore time and time again. Anyway, sometime during development, they hired Keiji Terui, a screenwriter who worked on Dragon Ball and Dr. Slump, to pen the backstory of the game. They put it inside the game's manual, which just goes to show how different times were, because if you were to do that now, ain't nobody reading that. Story aside though, the development of Legend of Zelda was riddled with difficulties. Many ideas ended up getting scrapped due to hardware constraints. Regardless, after the game's release in 1986, it did extremely well. First-time players were a little taken aback by how much brainpower it took to solve its puzzles and explore its vast world, but they figured it out. With Legend of Zelda's success, the series continued to expand with release upon release, and is still going strong today with this most recent title, Tears of the Kingdom. The game that single-handedly made this video a lot harder to research. But don't worry, we'll get to Tears, and the tears it made me shed. With each new Zelda title, Miyamoto always made it a focus to make the gameplay feel fresh, without relying on new technology. which is a pretty tough and honestly inspiring standard to hold yourself up to. Something I admire though is that as more games released, the story became more about Link and Zelda working together to defeat some stronger evil, instead of Zelda just remaining the damsel in distress all the time. Don't get me wrong, she still needs saving a lot, but Zelda got hands. Don't play with her. Today, Miyamoto is not as involved in the development of new Legend of Zelda games, but he still acts as a guardian to make sure the titles are on point. And though there are already a bunch of games within the series, it doesn't look like it's going to be ending anytime soon. As Miyamoto put it in the Hyrule Historia, Link's adventures will go on as long as we, the players, continue to love his world. But I think we spent enough time talking about development. I know what you lore fiends are really here for. So with that, let us begin our journey through the Legend of Zelda timeline. Okay, sorry. One last pit stop and then I promise we can get into the lore. I just want to lay out a few ground rules first. Outside of the lore of fighting games, most of the titles we've covered here on HGH have pretty set timelines. Not much theorizing needed to connect the dots. However, this timeline is not like that. As I said, gameplay was always a top priority when it came to developing these games. Eiji Aonuma, the producer for Breath of the Wild, said it best in an interview in 2017. We've never designed any Zelda games by saying, hey, we're gonna put that game here. We need to have it fit into this period or that one, etc. That's not what comes first for us. But indeed, once the game is released, and we've been able to develop our story, we can tell each other, oh yes, we can make it fit here. But that's not important to us. And that definitely shows with how often they change the timeline. To give you an example, the Hyrule Historia, by the way, you're probably not gonna see this because it's green, and I have my green screen in the back, but the Hyrule Historia gave us one of the first complete and concrete timelines in this franchise. But that got a slight change 6 years later in the Legend of Zelda Encyclopedia. Along with that, there are full-on interviews where Miyamoto pulled a Toriyama and forgot about the lore of his own game. Check out this video by Anadot that does a way better job of explaining it than me. So the timeline I'm explaining today will work for now, but all it takes is one used Zelda title to mix everything up. Miyamoto and Aonuma rather leave the overall timeline up to player interpretation. They love seeing us theorize and rather have us make sense out of the story based on our own experience through the game. Which I still like, but you know, it wouldn't hurt to keep the timeline the same for more than a couple of years. With that, no more pit stops. Let's get into this lore. The world of Legend of Zelda was created by the three golden goddesses during a time of chaos. Din, the goddess of power, created land. Nehru, the goddess of wisdom, created order. And Faeror, goddess of courage, created the world's inhabitants. Once their work was done, they just kinda left the world they created in the hands of another goddess named Hylia. But they didn't just leave her empty-handed. They entrusted her with the Triforce. Made up of 3 triangles representing courage, wisdom, and power, this artifact could grant its user any wish they like, whether it be good or evil. However, to keep it from giving some rando ultimate power, they made a rule that only allows someone to use it if they have a balance of the 3 virtues: courage, wisdom, and power. If not, the pieces will separate, with the user only gaining access to the part that represents their most prevalent virtue. The other pieces would then shine on the hands of the other 2 chosen by the goddesses. Hylia made sure the Triforce didn't fall into the wrong hands, but her goddess status wouldn't stop others from trying to steal it. During the era of Hylia, demons led by their king, Demise, appeared in search of the Triforce, looking to use its power to take over the world. This sparked a huge battle between the Demon King and Hylia and the humans. Things got so bad that Hylia was straight up like, screw it, this ain't working out, gathered all the surviving humans on a plot of land and shot it up into the sky, along with the Triforce. Then to keep it extra safe, she formed a barrier of clouds to keep the demons out and the humans up, I guess? Now there was a manga within the Hyrule Historia detailing the battle that led to all this, made by manga artist duo Akira Himekawa. These guys are responsible for a lot of the Legend of Zelda manga that have been released. In this story, what looks like the first iteration of Link ends up helping Hylia defeat Demise, but he ends up dying in the process. On top of that, the manga begins with him in prison because he was framed. The only reason why his people freed him was because Demise and his boys were on the way. And tell me how Link brought this up, but in response, one of the folks who locked him up calls it a little misunderstanding. Bro, I know if Link did not have that hero blood coursing through his veins, he would have bodied these dudes. I know I would. Telling me I got locked up for a misunderstanding. I'll show you a misunderstanding. However, as wild as that may be, this manga is not canon. I just thought it'd be nice to bring up. Anyway, the land which Hylia shot into the sky was dubbed the Isle of the Goddess. Once the humans were safe, she enlisted the help of the non-human tribes left on the surface, the Gorons, Magma, Perella, Kikwi, and ancient Robots? Yup, one of the first races in Legend of Zelda were robots. Crazy, I know. At some point, she also crafted the powerful Goddess Sword, meant to slay evil. With it, she and her new army managed to defeat Demise and seal him away in the sealed temple, and will later get dubbed the Sealed Grounds. However, she knew the seal wouldn't hold, so in a desperate effort, she tried using the Triforce to finish the Demon King off. But the Triforce has another caveat. Goddesses can't use it. In order to use its power, she would have to relinquish her goddess status and become a mere mortal. Hylia was down to make the sacrifice, but she had to handle a few things first. She created the spirit Phi to guide her future chosen hero in defeating Demise, should he ever return. The spirit was infused within the Goddess Sword, which would be left for the chosen hero as well. Along with that, she planted multiple gifts and clues that would aid this hero on his journey. She pretty much set Link up to defeat Demise and Skyward Sword, if we're being honest. She also appointed 3 dragons to watch over the different regions of the surface. Pharaon for the Pharaon Woods, Eldin for Eldin Volcano, and Lanayru for Lanayru Desert. She put the spirit Leviathan in charge of protecting the sky, and she gave each of these 4 beings a part of the Song of the Hero, which Link will need in Skyward Sword. With that, she left a woman named Impa from the Sheikah tribe to watch over the sealed grounds. Then she sacrificed her godhood to use the Triforce. Thousands of years passed after this event, and soon, the beings on the surface forget about Hylia and the Isle of the Goddess. The story of her battle with Demise becomes nothing more than legend. However, on the Isle of the Goddess, the humans were cooking. They formed their own home, dubbed Skyloft, and even created their own militia. Legend Keepers were established to keep the surface world and location of the Goddess Sword a secret. One of these Legend Keepers, Gaepora, taught the Skyloft militia how to fly Loftwings, special birds gifted to them by Hylia. According to the Hyrule Historia, he also taught them Kendo, which means that martial art is canon to the Legend of Zelda world. With these skills, he established the Knight Academy, where he would train the defenders of Skyloft. Then years later, Hylia is reincarnated in the form of Gaepora's newborn daughter, Zelda. But on the day of her birth, the seal on Demise begins to weaken. This leads us to the first game within the timeline, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. But before that, really quick, I just want to give a special shout out to one of the partners who made this video possible, GamerSupps. GamerSupps is your #1 source for gamer supplements, giving you the extra push when on the grind during those late hours. These drinks come packed with nootropics to sharpen focus and increase reaction time, organic caffeine for a good energy boost, and much more to keep you on top of your game. Along with that, it's keto friendly, and for those who don't like caffeine, there's also caffeine-free options. If you couldn't already guess, I use GamerSupps to pump out long videos like these, but what I appreciate the most about it is that it still gives me that extra push without giving me that really annoying tingly feeling you get from other energy drinks, you know? So head to their website, link in the description, and use code DON'TCHI to get 10% off your order. And to start you off right, I highly recommend the blood orange flavor. I just tried it and it tastes fire. So once again, head to the link below or go to gamersupps.gg and use code DON'TCHI to get 10% off your order. Alright, now with that, back to the timeline. Alright, so Zelda is now a teenager and happens to be close friends with Link, a young knight from the Knight Academy. The game begins on the day when Skyloft holds their traditional ceremony of the goddess. This is a ritual they hold in remembrance of Hylia. Zelda is chosen as the goddess for the ceremony, and after defeating his rival Groose in the Knight Academy's graduation exam, known as the Wing Ceremony, Link is chosen as the knight. But if we're being completely honest here, this competition was decided before it even began. Apparently, Link's connection with this Loftwing is so powerful that he flew it upon first meeting it. How, Sway? I know he's a chosen hero, blah blah blah, but still, crazy. So to celebrate Link's win, Zelda asks him out on a little fly date. But in the middle of it, Zelda falls to the surface thanks to some random storm. She ends up getting saved by the same Impa that Hylia left to guard the sealed grounds. Yeah, homegirl was committed. She tells Zelda that she is the reincarnation of Hylia, and to reclaim her memories as the goddess, she must cleanse herself in the temples of Sky and Earth. Back on Skyloft though, Link is confronted by Phi in his dreams. She guides him to the goddess statue, which holds the Goddess Sword, revealing that Link is Hylia's chosen hero of this era. Gaepora finds him afterward and is pretty much like, "Oh shit, you are the chosen hero. You trying to fulfill your destiny and save my daughter?" And Link's like, With that, Gaepora gets in that good old green tunic, and he takes a sailcloth to glide to the surface. He lands near the sealed temple, where he meets Impa, She tells him about Zelda's mission and insists that he find her. On his quest to do just that, he runs into two people who are also on the lookout for her. There's this era's Impa, who we can call Impa 2 to stop any confusion, and then there is the demon Girahim, the one responsible for taking Zelda out of the sky in the first place. Impa 2 is looking to protect Zelda, but crazy old Girahim was sent by Demise to kidnap Zelda and ultimately resurrect the Demon King. Before all this man was wreaking havoc on the surface with hordes of demons. Homie is a problem. Back to Zelda though, she eventually cleanses herself, regains her goddess memories, and meets up with Impa 2. Thanks to her newfound knowledge, she theorizes that the best way to keep Demise sealed is to go back in time to when he was first defeated and sleep in the sealed temple. And Hylia just so happens to leave a gate of time in Lanayru Desert. Yo, Hylia made sure everyone was set. The bad guy stood no chance. But still, Girahim tries to stop her because antagonists gotta antagonize. However, our boy Link pulls up just in time to protect them. With an opening available, Zelda and Impa 2 hop through the gate of time, and Impa 2 blows it up to make sure no one can follow them. But before that, Zelda gave Link the goddess's heart, which she'll use later for the Triforce. Link then returns to Impa, and she's like, "Don't worry, bro. There's a second gate of time, but you ain't ready for that yet. Go temper your sword in the sacred flames." So this part is kind of crazy because the sacred flames are imbued with the power of the golden goddesses. But they gave this power a name. You wanna know what it's called? The Force. And this isn't the only place where this power comes up. It's littered in many places in the overall timeline, which means even though they don't always say it, the Legend of Zelda's power system may be called the Force. I know they usually call powers magic in this, but what if using magic is you just utilizing the Force? But because people don't really know about the Force like that, they're calling it magic. Just like how we, as humans, see things as magic when we don't understand it. Or we just get violent, but that's besides the point. Now this could all be wrong and I could just be spouting nonsense, but let me know how you feel about this in the comments. Anyway, to temper his sword, Link must journey across the land. And while he does that, he also has to fight back the bits of Demise getting out since his seal is weakening. Nevertheless, he accomplishes the impossible, tempers his sword with the power of the goddesses, and his goddess sword unlocks his full potential, transforming into the Master Sword. Now Link is ready. He returns to the sealed temple, and using the Skyward Strike, he reactivates the Gate of Time. Once he uses it, he reunites with Zelda and Impa 2. She tells him her whole sleep plan, and Link's like, so she goes to sleep and the surface flourishes for thousands of years. Link returns to the present, and after completing the Song of the Hero to enter the Silent Realm, he locates the Triforce. And thanks to all the shit he's been through, he can use the whole thing. Nice. He wishes to have the statue of the goddess restored to its original place. See, when Hylia shot that chunk of land to the sky, the statue that was built in her name went with it, but a part of it was left back on the surface. The part on the surface was named the Sealed Temple, while the part on the Isle of the Goddess was dubbed the Statue of the Goddess. So Link wishing the statue back to its original spot acts as a finishing blow to the sealed demon. We needed more goddesses to take him out apparently. With Demise done for, Zelda wakes up from her 1,000+ year long nap, and the two friends finally reunite. Until Girahim pulls up because they forgot about him, yoinks Zelda, and takes her back in time to complete the ritual to summon Demise. Crazy how quickly Homeboy turned the plot around. Link ain't dealing with this man anymore though. He goes back in time for the hands, and Girahim tries to square up. But he isn't aware of the training our green lad has been through, so our boy bodies him. But unfortunately, he was too late. Demise revives anyway. But Link don't give a shit. He jumps in with the yacht and bodies Demise too. But tell me how Demise is so salty that his evil is absorbed within the Master Sword, which starts a curse where an incarnation of Demise will always be born to hate on the reincarnations of the goddess and the chosen hero. Dude said, "I despise y'all so much, I will follow you through space and time. Doesn't matter if you're reincarnated 5 billion years into the future, I'll be there." So when you think about it, from a twisted anime standpoint, you know we love that over here. The Legend of Zelda is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Anyway, after Demise pretty much created the plot for most of the franchise, Link and Zelda return to their own time. Link puts the Master Sword in the statue of the goddess, and together, he and Zelda stay on the surface to protect the Triforce, thus putting an end to the Skyward Sword story. Okay, I know a lot of you are looking at this title and thinking about all the stuff that happened in Tears of the Kingdom. Don't worry, I'll get to that. For now, we are going to stick with the original timeline, to keep my sanity. Now, after Skyward Sword, I'm assuming people from Skyloft came down and joined Link and Zelda on the surface. If not, then that would mean Link and Zelda had a bunch of babies, and you know what? Yeah, we're just gonna assume people from upstairs came down. They called the world Hyrule, and themselves Hylians. Thanks to them being descendants of Hylia, they had access to magic, and for a time the land stayed chill. But then people wanted to start spreading rumors about the Triforce, and chaos engulfed the land. Again. Hylians with strong magical abilities who were known as the Interlopers tried snagging the ancient artifact, but the goddesses themselves said no and summoned the spirits of light to banish them to the Twilight Realm. We'll get to that once we get to Twilight Princess, but now they gotta hide the Triforce again. Fortunately, the Sage of Light, Rauru, is up for the task. By the way, you're gonna hear about these sages a lot throughout the timeline. Just think of them as a special extra line of defense for the Master Sword, Triforce, and Hyrule. When Link needs that extra push, they're usually the cavalry. Anyway, Rauru puts the Triforce in the Temple of Light, within a place called the Sacred Realm, the holy dimension connected to Hyrule. It's said to be the place where the Golden Goddesses first placed the Triforce. But he can't just have people walking into the Sacred Realm all crazy, so he constructs the Temple of Time, which sits right at the center of Hyrule. Within it is the entrance to the Sacred Realm. Then he uses the Master Sword to seal the realm, and to be extra safe, the Master Sword is locked behind the Doors of Time. Sometime after this, the Hylians established Hyrule Kingdom, and set it right in the middle of Hyrule to keep a better eye on the Triforce. The royal family made it their duty to keep the Triforce safe, and whenever Hylia was reincarnated as a new princess, naming her Zelda became part of their tradition. With the establishment of the Hyrule Kingdom, peace befell the land once again. But of course, evil ends up rearing its ugly head again. This moves us to the next title in the timeline, Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap. So a mere couple of years after the kingdom's establishment, evil beings engulfed the land. But luckily, a race of tiny people known as the Picori, or Minish, descend from the heavens with gifts to aid the world: the Light Force and a special blade. Now, the special blade is not that important, but the Light Force piqued my interest because it brings up the Force again. The Hyrule Historia defines the Light Force as a source of infinite power from the heavens that holds the enormous power of the Force. There's nothing else really special about it. I just like how this power was in Legend of Zelda this whole time, and I didn't even know. Anyway, using the special blade given to him by the Picori, the chosen hero of this era, dubbed the Hero of Men, manages to seal all the evil in an item called the Bound Chest. And since a simple rumor of great power can start a war in these parts, the royal family takes care of the special blade, named the Picori Blade, and the Life Force. They also keep the existence of the Picori's home, the Minish Realm, a secret. But in honor of the Picori, they hold a special Picori festival each year. Don't know how you can hide the existence of something while also celebrating them, but okay Hyrule, go off. As time goes on, legends are told that every 100 years, the portal to the Minish Realm opens, allowing the Picori to enter the world of the humans. So you already know the Minish Cap starts 100 years after they came down from the heavens, cause plot. Bruh. The game begins with Hyrule's traditional Picori festival. One of the events happens to be a sword competition, and this year, a mysterious mage named Vati wins it. He receives his reward in front of the Picori Blade, but his true goal is snagging the Light Force, which he falsely believes is within the Bound Chest. So he breaks the blade, thus releasing all the evils that the Hero of Men sealed a century ago. He then proceeds to turn Zelda into stone, then goes on the hunt for the Life Force. Enter this era's chosen hero, a blacksmith apprentice named Link. His sensei, straight up named Smith, recommends him to save the princess and stop Vati. So he makes the kid a sword, then sends him off. A capless Link travels to the Minish Woods, where he meets a talking hat named Eslo. Eslo was a Minish sage, and happened to be Vati's sensei. His greatest work was the creation of the Mage's Cap, an item able to grant its user one wish. So it's like a Kirkland brand Triforce. But his piece of trash apprentice stole the hat, used his power to turn himself into a sorcerer, and then applied this newfound magic to turn Eslo into a hat. But Vati, if your goal is to get the Life Force, and you have an item that can grant you a wish, why didn't you just wish for the Life Force, you dum-dum? Either way, Eslo joins Link since they have the same goal. Together they find out that to restore the Picori Blade, they need to collect the 4 elements: fire, earth, air, and water. Then they must bring them to the Elemental Sanctuary. While Link journeys to become the Avatar, Vati uses his power to control Hyrule Kingdom, and forces soldiers to find the Life Force. After a game's worth of quests, Link manages to master all the elements, and forge the powerful 4 Sword in the Elemental Sanctuary, giving him the power to split himself into 4. They then discover that the life force is in Zelda. It's been passed down her bloodline for generations. Unfortunately though, Vati followed Link and received this information too, so he dips out to snatch it from her. Once our hero in green confronts the tyrant, it's already too late. He absorbs enough of the life force to become Vati's wrath. Regardless, Link comes at him with that quadra and bodies his ass, destroying much of Hyrule Castle in the process. With Eslo and Zelda now cured, the sage grants the mage's cap to the princess, and she uses it to restore the kingdom. Then Eslo gives Link his iconic green cap, and heads back to his crib in the Minish realm. However, Vati doesn't stay down for long. He returns years later and begins kidnapping every beautiful young woman in Hyrule. Zelda must have really pissed him off. But his plan fails just as quickly as it begins. A new chosen hero pulls up with the Four Sword and seals him within it. Now you'd think, after getting bodied by 2 chosen heroes, Vati would learn his lesson. But no, dude pulls up again, generations later, to start the plot of Four Swords. This time he only kidnaps Zelda, and brings her to the Palace of Winds to make her his wife. Ew. So this era's Link grabs the Four Sword to save her, splitting himself into the 4 Link Rangers. But since this is a game, Link, or the Links, have to do some extra work to get to the boss. This time, they need to collect the keys to the palace from the 3 great fairies who protect the land. After proving their worth to them, the Link Rangers enter the palace, put Vati back in his place by sealing him in the Four Sword, and rescue Zelda. The sword is placed in its pedestal, merging the 4 Links. Then with another evil down, hopefully, the royal family makes protecting the Four Sword one of their top priorities. But war ends up hitting the land again. God damn, Hyrule, can you chill? However, this war leads to one of the most important parts of this timeline, so let's hop in. So amid this Hyrulean civil war that lasts for countless eras, might I add, a mother dips out of her village with her child in an attempt to get away from all the bloodshed. They make it to Kokiri Forest, and before she dies from her wounds, she entrusts her child to the Great Deku Tree. From jump, the Deku Tree peeps that this child is just built different, cause spoiler alert, it's Link. So he follows the mother's wishes and raises the child as a Kokiri. The Kokiri are the tribe of folks who live within this forest. Each one gets a fairy, but Link, being of Hylian descent, never got one. Anyway, back to the world. Eventually the war ended because the king of Hyrule was like, chill, y'all are wildin', and unified the whole kingdom. Enter our boy, making his first appearance in the timeline, Ganondorf, the leader of the Gerudo. Fun fact about Ganondorf, by the way. Apparently the Gerudo tribe mostly consists of women. A boy is born in their tribe every century, and this century it happens to be Ganondorf. But homie's so evil, not even his second in command trusts him. Ganondorf comes to Hyrule to pledge his allegiance to the king, but in secret, he's not trying to pledge shit. He knows about the Triforce in the Sacred Realm, so he's trying to make moves to snatch it for himself. But homie isn't slick. This era's Princess Zelda gets warned about this in a dream, so she tries to tell her father, but Papa's not trying to hear it. And it's like, bro, I don't know if you know that your daughter's a reincarnation of a goddess, but if you do, are you dumb? If I had a protagonist daughter, and she told me she was having premonitions of the future, we are immediately making moves. I'm not playing any games. Luckily, Impa listens, and they keep a close eye on Ganondorf. Meanwhile, Link gets hit by a nightmare of Zelda running away from some man. Then the fairy Navi pulls up on him, telling him that the Deku Tree needs him. Link goes to his guardian and finds out that some dude freaking poisoned him because he didn't give up the Kokiri Emerald, one of the 3 sacred stones needed to get to the Sacred Realm. Link tries to fight off the curse, but fails. However, before the Deku Tree dies, he gives Link the Kokiri Emerald, tells him about Ganondorf's Triforce plan, and instructs him to meet Zelda. Once they meet, Zelda tells Link about her dream, and in his head, Link is like, hold up, this is the same dude that killed my tree dad. But in real life, he's like, yeah! She tells him to get the other 2 sacred stones, and with Navi accompanying him, he moves out. He gets the Goron Ruby from the Gorons and the Zora Sapphire from the Zora, but when he heads back to Hyrule Castle, he peeps Ganondorf already attacked the place. He runs into Zelda and Impa, and they pass him the Ocarina of Time. This item doesn't just help unlock the Sacred Realm, but it also manipulates space and time. I just want y'all to understand how many broken items Link has access to. I'm mad I really slept on this dude, bro. Homie is always ready. Anyway, with everything he needs, he heads to the Door of Time, uses the stones in the Ocarina to unlock them, and then there, he finds the Master Sword. Damn, we haven't seen this thing in a minute. Like the Minish Cap and the Four Sword were straight up like, nah, we don't need it. We got the Four Sword. So Link draws a sword since he is this era's chosen hero, but the sword doesn't see him as old enough, so it force locks him in the Temple of Time and keeps him there until he grows up. Maybe that's why the last 2 games didn't use the Master Sword. They needed a hero now. Anyway, this is great for Link, you know? He doesn't have to fight the menace that is Ganondorf until he's old enough. But this actually screws everything up, because it leaves the door to the Sacred Realm open for Ganondorf to walk right in. He attempts to take the whole Triforce, though only the Triforce of Power stays with him. But Big Boy Ganon is good with just that. After taking it, his presence contaminates the Sacred Realm, and he becomes the Demon King. Evil beings run amok all over Hyrule, and without Link there to fight them off, the place gets ravaged. Survivors from Hyrule Castle retreat to Kokiri Village. Zelda disguises herself as a boy from the Sheikah tribe named Sheik. As Link sleeps for 7 years, Rauru, now an owl named Kaepora Gaebora, watches over him. After 7 long years, Link wakes up all grown up, now the official Hero of Time. Rauru tells him about why he was Force-sealed, and about the whole Ganondorf situation. But if he awakens the other 5 sages, they can work together to seal him away. So Link travels around the wasteland that is now Hyrule, and awakens Princess Ruto of the Zora, Darunia of the Gorons, Naburu of the Gerudo, Impa of the Sheikah, and Saria of the Kokiri. With things looking up, Sheik reveals her true identity to Link, and discloses that she is the final sage. She also shows that she bears the Triforce of Wisdom, while Link has the Triforce of Courage. But they forgot that Ganondorf always be lurking. He kidnaps Zelda and takes her back to Hyrule Castle, hoping that Link will follow him. Our hero does just that, and the great battle between Ganondorf and Link finally begins. Ganondorf tries taking him on in his normal form, but Link is too nice. So Ganondorf is forced to transform into his true form, Demon King Ganon. Their fight continues, and it gets so epic that it creates a split within the timeline. In the first, Ganon actually beats and freaking kills Link. Yeah, I know. Crazy, right? But for now, let's focus on the second, where Link bodies Ganon. With the help of the sages, he's sealed away, and Zelda sends Link back to his time so he can enjoy his childhood like a regular person. But this causes another timeline split, because we have the timeline that Link went back to and the timeline that he left. And there you have it, folks. The infamous Tri-Timeline Split. It's funny because I know it wasn't done on purpose, but they still managed to stick the brand with the timeline split by having 3 different timelines. I know whoever created this, years after most of these games were released, felt like a god. But before we get into these timelines, I gotta give a quick shout out to our friends over at Millennial Comics, creators of Delta Dogs. Delta Dogs is an indie comic about a couple of cousins who had pretty normal lives, but after a crazy encounter in the night, they gained superpowers. Now they must face the forces that threaten their neighborhood and figure out where these powers even came from. I made a video about it a little while ago that goes more in depth, but trust me, it's good. More people need to read it. If that sounds interesting to you, head to the link in my description and treat yourself to a copy. Now, back to the Tri-Timeline Split. To start, let's go into the morbid timeline, where Link gets murked, cause honestly they all get pretty messed up anyway. Roll the title card. So Link is dead, and Ganondorf has completed the Triforce. What the hell do we do from here? Well, fortunately, the sages still manage to seal Ganondorf, but they seal him in the Sacred Realm of all places. Did they forget that Ganondorf touching this place caused demons to overrun Hyrule? Well, you know what? Where else are they gonna put him? With Ganondorf sealed, Hyrule gains a couple of years of peace. But too many people know about the Triforce now, man. And worse, they know where it is. So a bunch of idiots try going for it within the Sacred Realm. But due to the Triforce mirroring its user's heart, the Sacred Realm is now a much darker version of itself. It's so bad, they start calling the surface world the light world, and this place, the dark world. Ganon has so much Black Air Force energy in him that he turned heaven into hell. The King of Hyrule tells the sages to just seal the whole place, but in the process, they lose a bunch of their knights. They name this conflict the Imprisoning War. The area is eventually blessed with some peace after this, but the scars left back from the Imprisoning War run deep. Hyrule pretty much falls to ruin. The Hylian bloodline weakens. Soon enough, many people forget about the kingdom. Then after years of relaxation, shit gets crazy once again. Things get so out of hand, the King of Hyrule offers a reward to whoever can solve their problems. Enter Aghanim, a mysterious mage who is secretly a part of Ganon. He helps the kingdom out, then immediately betrays them by killing the king, controlling the soldiers of the kingdom, and kidnapping the descendants of 6 of the 7 sages. His plan? Sacrifice the descendants to revive Ganon. You know he's a part of Ganon because he has no chill. He then imprisons this era's Zelda, with full intentions of sacrificing her next. In a last-ditch effort, she sends a telepathic cry for help to this era's Link. He and his uncle live outside the castle, and happen to be descendants of the same Knights of Hyrule who fought in the imprisoning war. Link wakes up from the cry, and peeps his uncle already getting ready to throw hands for the kingdom. He tells his nephew to stay, but Link follows anyway because he's the protagonist, thus starting the events of the first game in this timeline, A Link to the Past. Link enters Hyrule Castle to find his dying uncle, but homie doesn't even seem to care. He just grabs the sword and shield from his uncle and keeps it pushing. He's set on his mission. He finds Zelda and rescues her from her prison, then brings her to the sanctuary north of the castle. Now he just needs to defeat Aghanim. But to do that, he needs the Master Sword. And to get that, he needs to find the Pendants of Virtue. Link does his hero thing, but once he gets the Master Sword, Aghanim kidnaps Zelda. And wow, I just realized that bad guys almost always do this. Link gets the final piece he needs to whoop their ass, so they kidnap the princess. Just say you're a coward, bro. Say you don't want to face me with the ones. That's all you gotta do. Link confronts the sorcerer as he's in the process of throwing Zelda into the Dark World. He beats the guy, but the sorcerer still manages to throw them both in. Luckily, using the magic mirror to jump between worlds, and the Moon Pearl to remain human inside the Dark World, he saves all the sage descendants and confronts Ganon. Link does his thing once again, and Ganon is defeated, leaving the Triforce up for the taking. So Link uses it to pretty much undo all the bad that happened. His uncle and the king are revived, and things finally start looking up again. As for the Dark World, thanks to Ganon's defeat, it slowly turns back into the Sacred Realm. But Link realizes he needs to get much stronger to stop things like this from happening ever again. So it's time for a training arc. This takes us to the next game in this timeline, Link's Awakening, a remake of the game of the same name that was released on the Game Boy back in 1993. Link travels by sea to begin his training arc, but a storm takes him off course and slaps him on Koholint Island. At first, he finds out from the island's inhabitants, Marin and Tarin, that there is nothing past the ocean. But later, he discovers he needs to find the instruments of the sirens to wake up the windfish. Apparently this whole place is a physical manifestation of his dream. So Link finds the instruments and wakes a giant fish up, thus deleting the island from existence. Well, on to the next adventure. The next 2 games in the timeline are the Oracle of Seasons and the Oracle of Ages. In these titles, the mothers of Ganondorf, Twin Rova, start making moves to revive him, and this requires sacrificing Princess Zelda. The same Link from the last 2 games pulls up to Holodrum and Labrina to stop their lieutenants. Eventually, he gets to the witches before they can sacrifice the princess. So instead, they use themselves as sacrifices. This leads to the ritual going all wrong, and Ganon being revived as a mindless beast. Regardless, Link beats him and then leaves to continue honing his skills. Also, after this battle, the Triforce splits. The Triforce of Power sticks with the sealed Ganondorf, the Triforce of Wisdom with Zelda, and the Triforce of Courage hides within the heart of the chosen hero. With that, Peach returns to the land. And I gotta say, kudos to this Link. He managed to keep things in check for a good amount of time. But even with his efforts, chaos threatens the land after centuries of peace, taking us to the next game in the timeline, A Link Between Worlds. An evil sorcerer named Yuga pulls up to Hyrule from a place called Lorule, the mirror opposite of Hyrule. He begins kidnapping sage descendants and turning them into paintings in an effort to revive Ganon and rule over both Hyrule and Lorule. Enter this era's chosen hero, a young blacksmith apprentice named Link. He tries to stop Yuga, but he fails, allowing Yuga to kidnap Princess Zelda too. Thanks to a mysterious merchant named Ravio, Link gains the ability to travel to and from Lorule. He confronts Yuga, but he's too late. The sorcerer emerges with Ganon and the Triforce of Power. Now he plans on consuming both worlds. Yuga's new form is too much for our hero to handle, but fortunately for him, Princess Hilda, Zelda's Lorulean counterpart, pulls the beast off. She then tells him to find the sage descendants. Link follows her orders, thus awakening the Triforce of Courage within him. He returns to Yuga to run it back, but he finds out Hilda was an op this whole time. See, Lorule used to have their own Triforce, but due to non-stop wars, they decided to destroy it. However, this caused their world to crumble. So Hilda devised a plan to send Yuga to Hyrule, all in an effort to take Hyrule's Triforce for themselves. I mean, when she puts it like that, her plan doesn't sound that evil. Nevertheless, Link puts his home first and beats Yuga and Hilda. In the end, it's Ravio who convinces Hilda to stop this nonsense, and it's revealed that Ravio is a Link of Lorule. So Hilda lets them go, but in an act of kindness, they use a Triforce to wish for a new one for Lorule. Now we move to a side quest within the timeline, with Triforce Heroes. I'ma be honest, before I started working on this video, I didn't even know this was a game. This title takes place right after A Link Between Worlds. In it, the same Link from that game journeys to Hytopia, a kingdom north of Hyrule Kingdom. They're pretty much just like Hyrule, but they hold fashion to the same level as a Triforce. So this is essentially Link's arc of drip. In Hytopia, he looks into a request from the king, asking for a hero with pointy ears that reach skyward, attractive yet ethereal sideburns that inspire allies to greatness, and perfectly parted hair that smells of lavender and friendship. Those are the game's words, not mine. The king's daughter has been trapped in a doo-doo brown jumpsuit by the evil Lady Maud, so with the help of straight up 2 random dudes, Link stops Lady Maud and saves Princess Styla. Yeah, this was a co-op game, so the guys who helped Link don't really matter. You can call them other Links if you want, but they'll never come up again. With that, Hyrule enters another time of peace, thanks to the Triforce being restored back in A Link Between Worlds. However, the new king of Hyrule is worried about someone using the Triforce for evil after his death, so he splits the Triforce. The Triforce of Power is hidden within the castle, the Triforce of Courage is hidden within the Valley of Death, with a bunch of security guarding it, and the Triforce of Wisdom is given to Princess Zelda in secret. The magic used to split it ensured that its rightful owners would see their peace shine on their hands when the time was right. After the king's passing, his son tries claiming the Triforce for himself, but he doesn't know the whereabouts of the Wisdom and Courage pieces. Some skeevy wizard gets him to ask his sister Zelda about its whereabouts, but when she denies knowing about it, the wizard gets pissed and puts her in eternal slumber. Also, fun fact, this Zelda is known as Zelda the First, even though she definitely isn't the first one in her family. Anyway, saddened by what's happened because of his greed, the prince lays his sisters to rest in the North Altar, and from then on, declares that all women born within the royal family be named Zelda. I mean, that was already a thing, but go off, prince? Afterward, the prince tries to rule Hyrule the best he can as the new king, but without a Triforce, chaos befalls the land eventually. After years, Ganon, devoid of intelligence thanks to that botched revival in the Oracle games, returns with an army and steals the Triforce of Power. In response, this era Zelda splits the Triforce of Wisdom into 8 parts. But get this, Zelda the First is still sleeping while all this is happening. So in this part of the timeline, there are apparently 2 Zeldas. Wild, I know. So this Zelda sends Impa to find someone courageous enough to defeat Ganon, thus starting the next game in the timeline, The Legend of Zelda. Yeah, we finally got to the first game, all the way at the end of one of these timelines. The Link of this era is believed to be a descendant of the one from A Link to the Past, and he's only 10. But since he is the chosen hero, he ends up finding Impa, and she tells him about the whole Ganon situation. He agrees to help, collects all the pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom, and then slaps Ganon for being evil. With Zelda saved, she declares Link the hero of Hyrule. Yay! But Link's job ain't done yet. On to the direct sequel of The Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Ganon may be gone, but his minions aren't, so Link hangs by the kingdom for a bit to clear them out. 6 years later, on his 16th birthday, the Triforce of Courage glows in his hand. He shows it to Impa, and she takes him to where Zelda the First was placed to rest. Then she explains the whole Prince and Triforce situation to him, and tells him that he is worthy of unifying the Triforce. He just needs the Triforce of Courage. So Link ventures off to collect the 6 crystals he needs to get into the Valley of Death. After defeating a bunch of Guardians and his Shadow Self, he earns the Triforce of Courage and returns to the castle. Once there, he reunites the Triforce, thus waking Zelda the First from eternal slumber. And peace returns to Hyrule, with possibly 2 Zeldas in charge now, until either another war breaks out or someone splits the Triforce again. With that, we can close the book on this part of the timeline. But now we must rewind all the way back to the Great Split and get into the next timeline. So Ganondorf has been defeated and sealed away. Zelda feels bad about kinda being the reason why Link had to skip his teen years, so she sends him back in time right before the Ocarina of Time plot kicks off. Once sent back, his fairy Navi disappears into the heavens. The first thing he does in his original timeline is snitch on Ganondorf. He warns the royal family about his true intentions. They actually listen, and to keep the Triforce safe, Zelda gives Link the Ocarina of Time, and tells him to head far away from Hyrule. So Link hops on his horse Epona, and leaves. He also uses this as a chance to find his old friend Navi, thus starting the first title in this timeline, Majora's Mask. His search goes on for months, then suddenly, he runs into the Skull Kid, a devious trickster who stole the titular Majora's Mask for himself. He takes Link's horse and the Ocarina of Time. Link can't have that, so he chases after him, taking him out of this dimension entirely, and into the mysterious world of Termina. This is another parallel world that contains inhabitants who look similar to the folks from Hyrule. Once Link catches up to the Skull Kid, homie tells him he got rid of his horse, then turns him into a Deku scrub. Yo, screw this guy! Fortunately for Link, the Skull Kid left behind one of his fairy companions, Tattle. See, before all this, the Skull Kid was friends with 4 giants who protected Termina. A time came when they needed to separate, and guard the regions of the land while catching some Z's. But the Skull Kid took this as them abandoning him, so homie was depressed. Eventually the fairies Tattle and Tail found him and became his new friends, but he was still pissed about feeling abandoned. So he starts harassing the people of Termina with tricks and pranks, one of which involved him robbing the Majora's Mask from a weird guy dubbed the Happy Mask Salesman. Eventually Link meets the same salesman, and he tells him he could turn him back to normal if he brings him back Majora's Mask and retrieves the Ocarina of Time. He also needs to get this done in 3 days. With the help of his new fairy friend, Deku Link finds the Skull Kid, in the process of bringing the moon down on Termina. But during his little celebration, the Skull Kid drops the Ocarina, so Link uses the Song of Time to return to the first day he got to Termina. He meets up with the Happy Mask Salesman who teaches him the Song of Healing to turn himself back into his regular form. But when the salesman finds out Link couldn't get the mask, he loses it. He tells the kid that the mask possesses apocalyptic power. If he doesn't get it soon, the Skull Kid is going to try to throw the moon at Termina again. So you already know Link's gotta stop him. He journeys across the 4 regions of Termina to awaken the giants, and along the way, he collects different masks, each granting him special abilities. With the help of the giants, he stops the moon from falling. But then the mask possesses the moon! Fortunately, thanks to the help of the fierce deity mask, Link manages to do the impossible and defeat the demon mask. And with the place now safe, Link leaves Termina, never to be seen again. But what's going on in Hyrule? Well, years after Link's warning, they decide to execute Ganondorf. But one does not simply kill the former King of Evil. Thanks to his Triforce of Power, the execution fails, and he ends up killing one of the sages instead. Damn, this dude is a savage. In a panic, they seal him within the Twilight Realm. So you know which game we're about to get into now. The Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess. Now those interlopers we talked about before are gonna come into play. When they were banished to the Twilight Realm, they created a civilization there and called themselves the Twilight. Things were pretty peaceful here, but after Ganondorf's sealing, political instability hits the realm once the throne is left vacant. A magician named Zant is a candidate to rule the place, but as the leader of the Twilight, he wants to rule both the Twilight Realm and the Light World with an iron grip. Princess Midna is chosen to take the throne instead, because the Twilight don't want Zant's greed to screw them over. They didn't bank on Ganondorf coming in and screwing them over anyway though. He starts whispering evil nothings into Zant's ear, and even gives him the power to act on his greed. He uses it to turn Midna into an imp, and transform the Twilight into shadow beasts. Now as a self-proclaimed king of the Twilight, he banishes Midna to the Light World, and proceeds to invade the place with his army. With his invasion, the light of Hyrule diminishes, and the whole place gets engulfed in twilight. Zelda can't do much on her own here, so she surrenders and is locked away in her castle. Enter this era's chosen hero, Link, a direct descendant of the Hero of Time. As the land is overcome by twilight, the people of Hyrule morph into spirits. But since Link has the Triforce of Courage, he transforms into a wolf instead. He eventually runs into Midna, and seeing Link reminds her of the Twilight Prophecy, stating that their savior would appear in the form of a beast. So together, they travel to restore light to Hyrule, and collect the Fused Shadows, magical artifacts that were used to seal the magic of the interlopers years ago. On their quest, Link also gets training lessons from the hero spirit. Turns out this guy is actually the spirit of the Hero of Time. After Majora's Mask, he died in some unknown place, but nobody passed down any legends of his heroism because outside of snitching on Ganondorf, he didn't really do anything in Hyrule. So he's using the chance to teach the current chosen hero as proof of his legacy. Anyway, our duo's adventure comes to an abrupt standstill when Zant finds them, steals the Fused Shadows, critically wounds Midna, and curses Link back into his wolf form. So much for all that progress. This leads them to meet Zelda. She tells Link that he needs to find the Master Sword, then pours her spirit into Midna to save her. With that, they head to the Master Sword in the ruins of the Temple of Time. With it in hand, Midna tells Link about her people, and suggests they find the Mirror of Twilight. But Zant broke the thing. The sages within the Mirror Chamber tell them about the whole failed execution, and task them with finding the shards of the mirror. A bunch of traveling later, they find the shards and restore the mirror. Then they pull up to Zant and give him the freaking work. But while they were doing this, Ganondorf made his return to the Light World, and overtook Hyrule. Link and Midna then return to the Light World for the smoke. Link confronts the big bad, but this guy starts off by using Zelda as a puppet to face our hero. I say again, this man has no chill. So Link is forced to give Zelda the hands. Then Ganondorf pulls up for his match, and your boy Link, thanks to his training from the Hero of Time, is ready. They duel and Link, with some help from Zelda, hits him with that and bodies his ass, shoves that Master Sword right through his chest. With the final boss dead, the curse on Midna lifts, and Light returns to Hyrule. She goes back to the Twilight Realm and destroys the mirror connecting their realms. She doesn't want this kind of stuff to happen ever again. But she leaves Link and Zelda with one request, to never forget the Twilight Realm. Then the game ends with Link returning home. Peace befalls the land, blah blah blah. Then, centuries later, a whole new Ganondorf is born within the Gerudo tribe, kicking off the last game within this timeline, Four Swords Adventures. Yeah, before this video, I swore Four Swords and Four Swords Adventures were the same game, but apparently they're not. The more you know. This iteration of Ganondorf wants to take control of Hyrule, because of course he does. And to do that, he needs to throw the place into chaos. So he breaks the rules of his tribe by stealing the powerful trident and the Dark Mirror. With plans to release Vati of all people, yeah, he makes a return. He uses the Dark Mirror to make dark copies of Link. These Shadow Links were made from the resentful and evil thoughts of the defeated Ganon, so they terrorize all of Hyrule. This era's Princess Zelda recruits the help of 6 Sage Descendants and this era's Link to check on the status of Vati's seal. But when they do, a Shadow Link separates them and kidnaps everyone but Link. So our hero draws the Four Sword, splits into the Link Rangers, and they go to work. But this also frees Vati, which is exactly what Ganondorf wanted. This time they must collect the royal jewels to get to the final boss. Once they do that and rescue the Sage Descendants, they raid the Tower of Winds and save Princess Zelda. Then they procure the Dark Mirror and hit Vati with that good old jump no jutsu. With that, they escape the Tower of Winds with everyone before it crumbles on them. But they still have one more person to take care of, Ganon. However, just like every other final battle, except for that one time, Ganon loses to the chosen hero. Or heroes, in this case. They seal him within the Four Sword and put the sword back in its pedestal. With that, peace returns to the land and another timeline comes to a close. And now let's rewind for the final time and get to the last timeline within this trio. So Ganondorf has been defeated and sealed up. Great, but now that Link is back in his original timeline, these guys don't have a chosen hero to handle problems for them. And him going back also shatters the Triforce of Courage into 8 pieces. Why 8 pieces exactly? Cause plot. Hyrule stays chill for some time, and the heroic deeds of the Hero of Time get passed down as legend. Unfortunately, after years of peace, Ganondorf finds a way to return. And with no chosen hero, Hyrule is pretty screwed. So the current ruler, King Daphne's No Hands in Hyrule, says screw it and leaves it up to the gods. And these guys decide to flood the world. I guess they also really don't want to deal with Ganon's crazy ass. So the king splits the Triforce of Wisdom in half, gives one half to his daughter, and sinks along with the other half, Ganondorf and his castle. The survivors, along with Zelda, travel to the highest mountains to survive. Then they eventually create a new civilization. But centuries later, Ganondorf returns. Unless it's Link doing the killing, this man cannot be stopped. To cripple the next chosen hero before he even appears, Ganondorf kills the sages of Wind and Earth, whose prayers give the Master Sword the power to slay evil. Then he goes looking for this era Zelda. Meanwhile, King Leave It to the Gods returns as a ship named the King of Red Lions. He goes looking for this era's chosen hero and his descendant, Zelda, thus starting the first game in this timeline, The Wind Waker. Fun fact, it was this version of Link that got me interested in Legend of Zelda. I wasn't a fan of his original design, but something about his Toon version just spoke to me. That's why Minish Cap is the first Legend of Zelda game I played, and Toon Link will always be my main in Super Smash Bros., no matter how long I stay away from that game. Anyway, Ganondorf starts kidnapping little girls in an effort to nab Zelda. Guess he's brute forcing his way to victory this time, and one of his minions, the Helmarok King, actually manages to grab her. However, in this part of the timeline, Zelda isn't some dainty princess. She's a pirate who goes by Tetra, and she wants to be queen of the pirates. Meanwhile, this era's Link, a simple boy from Outset Island, is celebrating his birthday. Another fun fact though, is theorized that this Link and the other Link in this timeline are just 2 random kids. Cause think about it, the chosen hero was yoinked from this timeline completely. If that's the case, how can this kid be his reincarnation? However, to keep things simple, Let's just assume that this Link is the chosen hero of this era. For his birthday, he gets the hero's clothes and telescope from his little sister Aryll. He uses the telescope right away to find Tetra in the process of getting captured by the Helmarok King. He grabs a weapon, then heads to their location for the smoke. After saving Monkey D. Tetra, Link's sister ends up getting captured in the process, so now our boy has gotta save her. And since Tetra kinda owes Link, she agrees to help him out. Their journey takes them to the Forsaken Fortress, where Link's sister is being held hostage. But before he can save her, the Helmarok King flings him away like a piece of trash. Our boy didn't stand a chance. He's found by the King of Red Lions, who tells him he needs to find the Master Sword, and to do that, he first needs the Goddess Pearls. After retrieving the pearls and passing one final test, he gains access to the sunken Hyrule Castle. He pulls the Master Sword from its pedestal, thus taking the castle out of his time suspension. Now it's time for some revenge. He heads back to the bird who caused him so much trouble and whoops his ass with his new toy. But then, he pulls up to the big boss of the Forsaken Fortress, Ganondorf. And the poor kid can't do a thing against him thanks to the Master Sword losing its whole Evil's Bane buff. Tetra even tries to help, but it amounts to nothing. Fortunately for the duo, friends of Link save them before Ganondorf lays them out. They manage to save Link's sister in the process, but they still gotta solve this Ganon problem. The King of Red Lions brings them back to the sunken Hyrule Castle and reveals himself to be the late King of Hyrule. He combines his piece of the Triforce of Wisdom with Tetra's piece, which was disguised as her necklace this whole time, revealing her true identity as Princess Zelda. But they still need the Triforce of Courage, so Link is sent on a fetch quest to collect all the pieces. First, Link awakens Makar and Medley as sages to restore his sword's evil Bane buff. Then he tracks down the Triforce pieces and restores the Triforce of Courage, officially establishing himself as the hero of Winds. But since Link got the final part he needs to defeat the boss, we already know what happens next. Zelda gets kidnapped. We can't have the damsel feeling safe. Link follows them and they begin another one of their epic battles. In the middle of it, Ganondorf successfully summons the full Triforce. But before he gets the chance to make his wish, the late King of Hyrule touches it first, and wishes for Hyrule to be sealed with Ganondorf once and for all. Now this gets Ganon pissed, so he attacks Link and Zelda, but this time they manage to pull off the jump no jutsu and his ass. Stabs the big bad in the head. Kid wanted to make sure he was dead. So Ganondorf turns into stone, then the heroic duo say their farewells to King Daphnes, as Hyrule sinks with them and poor Ganondorf. Afterwards they reunite with Link's sister, and Zelda goes back to her Queen of the Pirates guise, cause this was only a side quest on her main journey of getting the One Piece. With the excitement of adventure boiling Link's blood, he decides to join Tetra to look for new land. With that, the Wind Waker chapter comes to a close, and a new journey begins in this timeline's next title, Phantom Hourglass. While traveling, Tetra, Link, and the crew stumble upon a ghost ship that's been kidnapping the residents of local islands. This area is supposed to be protected by a being known as the Ocean King, so that's sus. Therefore, Tetra and Link do some investigating. Tetra tries looking into the ship first, but when she enters, she doesn't come off. So Link follows her but falls and gets lost at sea. Poor guy is really unlucky when it comes to water. He washes up on Murkay Island, where he meets a spirit named Ciela and an old man named Oshus. The old man tries to warn Link about the dangers of the ghost ship, but no crewmate gets left behind. So through Oshus, he meets Captain Linebeck, a man of the sea in search of treasure. Linebeck doesn't really want to help, but who cares? He has a boat, and that's all we need. In this adventure, Link must collect the spirits of wisdom, power, and courage. After finding the first two, it's revealed that Ciela is actually the spirit of courage. Then later, Oshus reveals that he is the Ocean King. Before all this, the demon responsible for the ghost ship, Bellum, attacked them and commandeered Oshus' temple. In the attack, Ciela lost her memories. So with more motivation, Link sets out to give Bellum the once. But to take on the big bad, he first forges the Phantom Sword. Then with the help of his friends, even Linebeck, they slay the demon. With Tetra now safe, the duo returns to their ship, but they find out they've been gone for only 10 minutes. Link ponders if it was all a dream, but the empty Phantom Hourglass and sighting of Linebeck's ship prove otherwise. Following that little side quest, Link and Zelda continue on their search for new land, and they end up discovering a whole continent. But this land doesn't come without its own bit of lore. Long ago, an evil tyrant named Malladus terrorized the land, so random spirits who only matter in this game, known as the Spirits of Good, sealed them in the Tower of Spirits, which lay at the center of the continent. The Spirits of Good then sent the sages from the Lokomo tribe to 4 different temples in the region. Special railroad tracks dubbed Spirit Tracks spawned from the Tower of Spirits and wrapped around the continent, further securing Malladus' prison. Now we're ready to start the final game in this timeline. Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks. Tetra and Link establish a new Hyrule Kingdom here. As it develops, they decorate the castle with stained glass pictures displaying the many adventures of Tetra. The soldiers adopt green uniforms in reverence of the Hero of Winds. Then a century later, the kingdom gets hit with the nonsense. The Spirit Tracks start disappearing without reason. Enter our new hero, an engineer named Link, who actually lives with Tetra's old crewmate, Nico. Princess Zelda promotes him to Royal Engineer of the Kingdom, then together with Link's engineer sensei, Alfonso, they secretly leave the kingdom to look into the Spirit Tracks issue. But their departure is interrupted once the tracks they're on disappear. The trio is stopped by Zelda's advisor, Cole, and his assistant, Byrne. Turns out this double top hat bastard is actually evil, and trying to revive Malladus. Worse yet, he wants to use the princess as a demon's vessel, so they put the trio down and rip Zelda's soul from her body. These bad guys don't play, son. Zelda's spirit and Link then travel to the Tower of Spirits to get more answers. There they meet Locomo Sage, Anjean. Through her, they find out they must travel to the 4 temples across the land and restore their barriers. To help them on their journey, she grants them the Spirit Train. The duo then does just that, and Zelda helps out by using her new ability to possess Phantom Knights. Then after restoring the temples and receiving the Locomo Sword, Link and Zelda put down the big bad. The princess gets her body back, the Locomo Sages return to the heavens, and peace befalls New Hyrule until another iteration of Demise's hate comes in to start the cycle of chaos all over again. But we don't need to talk about that because Spirit Tracks puts an end to this part of the timeline, putting a close to the infamous Legend of Zelda Tri-timeline. But we're not done yet. It's time to enter the current Legend of Zelda era. Alright, we are finally talking about the last titles in this timeline. If you made it this far in the video and you understand what's going on, you should feel very proud of yourself. Also, oh my god, thank you. Thank you for watching this far, for real. I know I sound like a broken record by now, but I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to watch me ramble about video game lore. To be honest with you guys, before this video, there wasn't much I knew about the Legend of Zelda series. Like, sure, I played a couple of the games, but I wouldn't have really called myself a Legend of Zelda fan. Meaning a lot of the stuff I was learning was fresh to me. So yeah, if you've made it this far and you really like it, that means a lot. So thank you for watching. I'm really mad I didn't write a sentimental thank you note inside my script. So yeah, I had to record this on the fly, mid-edit. Alright, anyway, back to video. But I know we just talked about a bunch of lore, so as a palate cleanser, let's talk about how Nintendo brought us into this new era of Zelda. So Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild started development in 2011, immediately after Skyward Sword. The game's producer, Aonuma, wanted to break the conventions of the Legend of Zelda series. To really think outside the box, the team made a forum for all their developers, especially younger ones, to drop their ideas. This led to many wild concepts, like UFOs being able to yoink castles, and battles where Link would be running from an onslaught of lasers Star Wars style. However, the focus quickly became to develop an interconnected world, so a true open world became the setting, not some collection of different environments like past games. This was going to be one huge world. The team also used successful open world games like Skyrim and Shadow of the Colossus as inspiration. They even collaborated with Monolith Soft, known for their work on the Xenoblade Chronicles series, to work on the landscape and topography. But we all know Nintendo. They can't just put Link in an open world and call that a game. It needed more innovation, so the world was developed to be extremely interactive. Another goal became to allow players to solve puzzles in multiple ways. They experimented with non-linear gameplay using a 2D demo first. Once they created the basic mechanics they wanted, they began translating it to 3D. But this proved to be a very difficult task. In Nintendo's mini-documentary, The Making of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, the team described how tasks as simple as cutting down a tree became way more complex when translated to 3D. And what made this more difficult was that this game was coming out for the Switch and Wii U. Many features such as flying and underground dungeons ended up getting scrapped because of the Wii U's limitations. The game was also the first to implement voice acting for the majority of the characters. This was done to leave even more of a lasting impression on the fans. Which is why it baffles me that Pokemon still hasn't added voice acting. Game Freak, you're leaving money on the table, come on! Speaking of the characters, Link remained the silent character he always was, and was redesigned to be more gender neutral so more players could relate to him. After years of development and many delays, Breath of the Wild dropped in 2017. It is still known as one of the greatest games of all time, and the impact it had on the gaming industry is still felt today. I mean, just look at Genshin Impact and all the other Genshin clones out there. But the big question is, where does this all fit into the timeline? Well, get this. This game takes place so far into the future that everything we just went over became myth and legend. Yup, most of what we just talked about doesn't even matter. But you know what? I don't care. We made it this far and those adventures were freaking wild. How you gonna flood Hyrule, bro? Can we talk about that? And there's a whole timeline where Link dies? Hello? So I'm not gonna hold you. When I found out, I got a little bit mad. But each game had its own story to tell, and I appreciate that. I don't care if they're myths or legends. They are dope myths and legends. Alright, anyway, we're in the distant future. An entity of pure malice known as Calamity Ganon is prophesied to conquer Hyrule. In preparation, the Sheikah develop advanced technology, such as robotic soldiers known as Guardians, and deadass Megazords dubbed Divine Beasts to defend the land. Once he appears for the smoke, the Sheikah tools give Hyrule the edge they need. They defeat the Calamity, but the King of Hyrule isn't a fan of how strong the Sheikah tech is. So out of paranoia, he scatters their technology across Hyrule and exiles the Sheikah. Sir, what is wrong with you? In response, many of the Sheikah move on with their lives, but others full on pledge their loyalty to Calamity Ganon out of hate for the king. They end up forming the Yiga clan, but 9,900 years later, they receive a prophecy stating that Calamity Ganon's returning to run it back. So they pretty much throw away the old king's decree and dig up the Guardians and Divine Beasts that were hidden years ago. They select 4 champions to command the beasts: Mipha, the Zora princess, Urbosa, the Gerudo chief, Daruk, the Goron, and Revali, the Rito archer. This era's chosen hero, Link, takes up the Master Sword and joins them as one of the champions, and as Zelda's knight. However, there is one big problem here. Zelda hasn't been able to awaken her goddess powers. She's been trying since she was 7, but still nothing. And with her mother dead, she's the only one who has the ability to fully seal the Calamity. However, what's interesting about this part of the story is that Zelda's lack of magic causes a huge drain on her and Link's relationship. Unlike a lot of titles, she starts off hating him because he's a living, breathing reminder of her failure to uphold her destiny. It isn't until he saves her from the Yiga clan one time that they actually start bonding. It's small, but I like that they added this development stage of their relationship. It adds more depth to both characters, honestly, and they still managed to do this with Link staying completely silent. Anyway, to make up for her magical shortcoming, Zelda does her best to study ancient Sheikah tech, but her father ultimately tells her to stop and focus on her goddess training. Then on Zelda's 17th birthday, Calamity Ganon makes his move, but he's learned from his last battle. So before this one, he takes control of the Guardians and Divine Beasts, killing the champions in the process. With the ancient Sheikah weapons now under his command, he attacks Hyrule Castle, and these guys don't stand a chance. Link almost dies to a Guardian while trying to protect Zelda, but with her man in mortal danger, the princess finally taps into her goddess powers and saves him. Now she's got some hope. She has Link rush to the Shrine of Resurrection, then she pulls up to the Calamity and taps into her powers once again to hold Ganon down until Link is ready to run the ones. Okay, this type of badass shit is exactly why this Zelda is my favorite. The shrine takes 100 whole years to reconstruct Link's body. Once Link wakes up, he has no memory of what happened. He leaves the shrine and enters the new Hyrule, thus beginning the events of Breath of the Wild. Like all that backstory was in Breath of the Wild, but this is where the game actually starts. From King Rome, the late king of Hyrule from 100 years ago, Link finds out about the second great calamity. Unfortunately, Calamity Ganon has grown stronger throughout the years. If Link doesn't defeat him soon, then he'll lay waste to Hyrule. So Link goes on a quest to retake the Divine Beasts and free the spirits of the champions. On the way, he also regains his memories of his past and the Master Sword. Once the Sheikah Gundams are back on the good side, Link takes the fight to Calamity Ganon. They manage to weaken him, and Zelda delivers a finishing blow by sealing him away, thus putting an end to another wild adventure. Now before we continue, I'd feel wrong if I didn't mention the spin-off game, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. It's a title that sees the little Guardian travel back in time to prevent the second calamity. However, from what I know, this game isn't canon. At the most, we could say it starts a small alternate timeline. But now, onto the Breath of the Wild sequel, and the final game in this timeline, Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. It's been a couple of years since Calamity Ganon's defeat. Ever since then, Zelda and Link have made an effort to rebuild Hyrule Kingdom, but a new threat comes in the form of a mysterious substance dubbed Gloom. To investigate, Link and Zelda travel through a hidden passage underneath Hyrule Castle that was originally off limits. There they find the Zonai ruins, which go into the founding of Hyrule, and the Great War against the Demon King dubbed Wait for it, the freaking Imprisoning War. But Donchi, I thought we already got the story of Hyrule's founding, and I thought we already went over the Imprisoning War too. Well, I thought that too, but Tears of the Kingdom begs to differ. Both the founding of Hyrule and the Imprisoning War go differently in this version of the story. Here, the appearance of the Zonai sparks everything. This ancient tribe came down from the heavens years before the first great calamity. They were thought to be descendants of the gods. With them came the secret stones, powerful artifacts given to them by the gods. The Zonai flourished in this new land. They created advanced technology which actually inspired the Sheikah when they created their guardians and divine beasts. But over time, the Zonai bloodline diminished. Two Zonai, Rauru and his sister Minoru, soon became the only ones left. Eventually, Rauru met the Hylian Sonia. They got married, and together they founded Hyrule Kingdom. Rauru gifted his new wife one of the secret stones. However, their rule was cut short by, of course, Ganondorf in the Imprisoning War. Okay, great. But where does this fit in the timeline? Well, there are a bunch of theories. Some finding a way to put this somewhere in the beginning of the timeline, some completely replacing the original Imprisoning War altogether. But this is the one I like the most. Everything that we talked about in the first timeline stays the same. But this Hyrule Kingdom that Rauru and Sonia founded is a completely different Hyrule Kingdom from the one we knew. Proof of this being a possibility is already given in the Wind Waker of all games. Remember when the gods decided to flood the place? Tetra and Link had to establish a new Hyrule Kingdom on a new continent. The same thing could have happened here. That would also explain why a lot of the stories from the first timeline have been forgotten as legends and myths. If that whole civilization was destroyed, of course it would be forgotten over thousands of years. It could even be possible that the reason we have 3 timelines in the beginning is because of misinterpretations of the myths and legends passed down about the chosen hero, Hyrule, and Zelda. Now I know this may not sit right with some people because it's the easy way of solving this, but please, I implore you, drop your counter theories in the comments below. Anyway, back to Link and Zelda. As they continue traversing underneath the castle, they find the source of all the gloom, a mummified Ganon with a secret stone on his forehead. However, Rauru's severed arm is holding onto his chest. As they enter, it falls and drops a secret stone, which Zelda picks up. But it turns out that arm was the thing keeping Ganondorf down. Dude wakes up and immediately guns for Zelda with a massive gloom. But Link pulls out the Master Sword and his shit. But the yaw fails! The gloom attaches to his arm and sucks the soul out of it, and the Master Sword. Eventually the Sword of Evil's Bane breaks. Then Ganondorf starts getting up and calls Link and Zelda by name. Zelda's like, huh? Then this man is like, oh, is that the Master Sword I've been hearing about? That thing is garbage, and so are you. Then to flex his power, he pulls a Hylia and shoots Hyrule Castle into the sky. The Hylians end up calling this cataclysmic event the Upheaval. Okay, already, this is the realest Ganondorf that we've seen so far. As the castle goes up, Zelda falls, and Link is just a little too late to catch her before she descends into the depths. But instead of, well, dying, she's sent back in time to before the Imprisoning War. She's found by Rauru and Sonia. After explaining her story, they decide to help her, but they don't know how to travel to the future, so they ask Rauru's sister, Minoru, for help. Sadly, she doesn't have much of an answer for them. She explains how the secret stones have the ability to amplify one's power. It must have amplified Zelda's abilities to send her back in time, but she doesn't really know how to help her use her power to get back to her time. They do have one option if everything goes to shit though, a forbidden act known as draconification. It involves eating a secret stone. Once done, the eater becomes an immortal dragon, but they lose themselves in the process. They go 100% dragon. Minoru is heavily against it, but Zelda tucks the idea in her pocket for later. For now, she agrees to train with Sonia to master her abilities. Eventually, after a failed attack on the castle, Ganondorf of the Gerudo pulls up to Rauru. Just like his possible Ocarina of Time ancestor, he falsely swears fealty to the king. After he leaves, Zelda's like, nah bro, that dude is sus. Calamity Ganon? Ganondorf? No way that's a coincidence. But Rauru tells her it's chill. If anything, it's best to keep him close just in case he tries to pull some evil shit. Which he does. Homie pulls up on the queen, and even though Zelda tries her best to stop him, even shows off the fruits of her training while she's at it, this man ultimately kills Sonia, and he takes her secret stone for himself. The ancient stone is corrupted, and Ganondorf transforms into the Demon King. Rauru ends up recruiting the help of the Gerudo, Rito, Zora, and Goron tribes, granting a representative of each one of his secret stones. His sister joins the squad too with her secret stone. He dubs them the Sages, and together, they attempt to fight the Demon King. In the end, it takes Rauru sacrificing himself to seal the menace, As this happens, he tells Ganondorf that Link will be the one to give him all the smoke. They later dubbed this conflict the Imprisoning War. So think about that, fam. This whole time, even through Breath of the Wild, Ganondorf was sealed, which means all that malice that formed Calamity Ganon came from Ganondorf's sealed body. How are you so strong that you spawn something so threatening that is called a calamity? That's freaking wild. But let's return to the present. After Zelda goes back in time, Link is saved by Rauru's arm. Once he awakens on the Great Sky Island, Rauru speaks to him through the arm. He tells our hero that Zelda has told him much about him, and that the gloom unfortunately yoinked his arm, so he had to loan him his. Which isn't a bad trade-off if you think about it. Trade my regular-ass arm for your Descendant of God arm? Say less. He sets out to figure out where he is and where the hell Zelda went. After receiving Zelda's Purapad from an unusual creature, he travels to the Temple of Time, but is blocked by a gate. Rauru's spirit reveals himself to him, and instructs him to restore his arm to full potential and purge the darkness within by visiting the Shrines of Light. After getting that done, and receiving a bunch of new abilities, he gains enough vitality to open the sealed door at the temple. He finds a ball of light that interacts with the Master Sword. Once he places it in, it travels back in time to Zelda after the Imprisoning War. The Master Sword actually communicates with her, and reassures her that Link is okay in the present. It returned to the past in order to recover and gain enough strength to take down Ganondorf in the future. And though the game doesn't outright say it, it's presumed that this is Fi speaking to the Master Sword. It's the only spirit we know of that lays dormant within it, so who else would it be? But people, imagine that. This dude Ganondorf is so strong, the weapon needed to kill him took it upon itself to level up. If there was any part of you that doubted how built different Ganondorf is, I hope that's gone now. After receiving the Master Sword, Zelda realizes why she was sent to the past. She must keep the Master Sword safe while it recovers. So she pulls up to Minoru and tells her she's going through with it. She's doing the Draconification. Minoru still isn't down, but she understands they don't have much of a choice now. Link can't beat future Ganondorf with a regular-ass weapon. Motivated to help out too, Minoru's spirit inhabits Zelda's Purapad. Then the princess eats her secret stone. She holds the Master Sword close, then transforms into the immense Dragon of Light. The Master Sword rests in her head as it recovers, and is supercharged by her energy as well. She leaves back tears which ancient Hylians end up creating geoglyphs around. As a further precaution, the remaining sages use their powers to lift important zonai structures to the skies above. Back in the present, Link returns to the surface and starts setting up a long-ass to-do list. To start, Purah, Impa's little sister, informs him that the Gerudo, Gorons, Zora, and Rito need his help thanks to the upheaval. Later, from Impa, he finds out about Zelda's tears, dubbed the Dragon's Tears. Through these, he's shown memories of Zelda meeting the Zonai in the past, so Impa tasks him with finding the rest of them. He's also asked to help the researchers Robbie and Joshua with investigating the depths below Hyrule Castle. And lastly, he hears about sightings of Princess Zelda acting sus across the land. So with little time to waste, he gets to work. He aids the allied tribes, awakening Tulin, the Rito, Yunobo, the Goron, Sidon, the Zora, and Riju, the Gerudo, as sages. With the help of Zelda's tears, he's able to understand what she went through in the past. Thanks to the Deku Tree and Zelda's memories, he finally finds the Master Sword in the place Zelda left it for him, planted in her freaking head. Ow. Later, he finds Minoru, the 5th sage. She transfers her spirit from Zelda's Purapad to her construct, to aid in the upcoming battle. And of course, he finds out the Zelda sightings are related to Ganondorf. Now with everything set, it's time to take the fight to the final boss. They raid the Demon King's stronghold. He starts off by sending his massive army at them, but the sages hold them off, allowing Link to handle him. Then our hero enters the Demon King's chamber and watches as he transforms into his prime self. And homie has a katana. Bro, I already thought Ganondorf was cool, but now you're giving him a katana? And his design in this game is freaking lit? Bro, come on, son. Nintendo wants me to root for the bad guy here. Also, just want to throw another kudos to this game's team, because this voice acting really does do the game justice. Like Legend of Zelda cutscenes already got pretty intense, but this is a different level. Like when Ganondorf says,
"Do not look away." You witness a king's revival.
How can you not get chills from that? Anyway, the epic clash begins, and Link manages to claim the first round. Ganondorf is getting hyped up from being in a duel this challenging, so he transforms again, using the power of his stolen secret stone. Regardless, with some help from the sages, Link still manages to come out on top. But Ganondorf isn't so happy about his enemy being this nice. Could Rauru have been right all those years ago? So Ganondorf does the unthinkable. He eats his secret stone, transforming into a dragon. Homie already had a katana, but now he's a dragon? Son, this stomps on his demon pig form. First off, sorry Link, you just can't catch a break. But second, Nintendo. I'm gonna need you to make a 2D Legend of Zelda fighting game and make Ganondorf a character. I will main him so quick. Anyway, Demon Dragon Ganondorf yoinks Link and drags him into the sky. But Light Dragon Zelda pulls up to save him, thus beginning the final clash. Light Dragon Zelda and Link versus Demon Dragon Ganondorf. After one of the littest boss fights in gaming history, Link takes his Master Sword and deals a finishing blow on Ganon. The dragon explodes, leaving Hyrule safe once more. But Zelda's still a dragon, so Rauru and Sonia's spirits pull up and use their power to turn Zelda back into her original form and return Link's arm back to normal. But they left the duo in the sky to plummet to their deaths. Luckily, Link manages to grab Zelda's arm this time. He tucks her close, and they fall into a body of water on the surface. Afterward, Minoru returns to the heavens to reunite with her friends from the distant past. And with that, our hero set out to continue protecting Hyrule. Whoo, bro. I'm never going to trust my first recording of an outro ever again. Every time I do an Honest Gaming History, I write down the outro, I record it, and once I'm done editing, I rewatch the outro and I'm like, this is not enough for how much effort went into this video. No, we gotta do it over again. So here I am recording the outro again, just like for the God of War video. But people, I can't even believe that this happened, bro. I don't even know how I was able to get this all down and explain it. I really hope it makes sense. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I really hope you now have a better understanding of the Legend of Zelda lore. I hope there were no minor mistakes or anything like that. I know things happen where you might miss things. It just happens, bro. But man, once again, I am just very, very, very proud of this video, bro. However many views this gets, I'm very happy with this video. I've worked really hard on it. I've been working on this video since May, if you don't already know. Yeah, I had a tip-a-thon because life was getting crazy, and one of the goals was that whoever donated the most got to choose the next Honest Gaming History, so it ended up being Legend of Zelda. I was scared at first, but honestly, after the 2.5 hour long Honest Gaming History for God of War, I was like, it's possible, bro. Even though it took a long time, took a lot of reading, can't believe it's done, bro. I'm so happy it's done. Thank you for watching, for getting this far, for real. If I didn't already make it clear back in the Breath of the Wild chapter, if you have gotten this far, especially if you've gotten to the end and you're still watching right now, I appreciate you so much, bro. I'm gonna get into the guildmates and all that stuff, but honestly, if you made it this far, you are lit, bro. You are dope. You have all my appreciation. You spent an hour and 20 minutes or something like that, an hour and 20 minutes with me. Listen to me talk about The Legend of Zelda, and as someone who's new to this series, it's kind of scary, but I will say, because I didn't make it clear before either, this video has made me a fan. This video has made me a big fan. There are some Legend of Zelda games that I did not get to play. Best believe I'm gonna be playing them soon. Probably gonna stream them, but I keep rambling. Once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for getting this far. If you enjoyed this video, do not forget to like, comment what other characters you want me to cover or what other franchises you want me to cover in Honest Gaming History in the future. Also, stay tuned till the end because I'm going to announce who's going to be covered next. It's already been decided. Share this with whoever you think should learn more about the Legend of Zelda lore. If you want someone to become clear on the timeline, hey, share this with them. I think this video does a pretty good job. Subscribe if you want to see more of me, and hit that bell to stay notified of whenever I upload new content. Guildmates, the GOAT, appreciate you guys so much for helping make this video possible as well with your kind monthly donations. If you guys don't know about the Guildmates, it is my new membership program through the channel. I'm doing it straight through my website now, where I give you guys extra content, merch discounts, and a bunch of extra stuff. So if you want to give that extra love and get some extra love back, head to my website, link in the description, and join. But with that being said, next time on Honest Gaming History, we're covering Mega Man. We're doing Mega Man. I didn't learn my lesson, obviously. I went from one big ass franchise and now I'm going right back to another one. So yeah, God of War, Legend of Zelda, and now Mega Man. And I'm sure people are wondering, Mega Man? What do you mean Mega Man? There are so many different we're doing all the Mega Mans. So if you're trying to watch that when it comes out, make sure you hit that subscribe button, bro, because for real, I'm really excited for it. Also, it's not going to be in one video. I'm going to be breaking it up by different version of Mega Man because I'm not trying to do all that in one video. I feel like it's going to be confusing for you and also way too much work for me in one video, bro. Nah, I need a little bit of a break going from Legend of Zelda. But that is all. So with all that being said, once again, I cannot say it enough. Thank you for getting this far. Be easy, stay lit, stay healthy out there. Black Lives Matter, and don't forget, you can do whatever the hell you put your mind to. All it takes is practice and time. Peace out, y'all.